This is the story of Demetrius Wilson. Demetrius was a beautiful and sweet young man that had $1 million smile and was a joy to be around. Unfortunately, this sweet child's life was cut short by his great aunt, Susan, before. Year 2014. Denver Human Services engaged in Demetrius' life from the start. In March 2014, he was born with marijuana in his system. Therefore, the hospital contacted Denver Human Services. Over the years, Denver Human Services investigated 4 times regarding Demetrius and his sister Noelle. This included a February 2017 incident when Denver Human Services removed the children from their mother's home and placed them in the custody of their great aunt Susan. She was cleared by Denver Human Services for kinship placement after background checks were completed. However, legal custody still belonged to Denver Human Services until Susan was granted parental rights in October 2017. June 2nd, 2022. It was stated that Demetrius picked cotton out of the couch, and Susan was tired of telling Demetrius to stop picking cotton out of her couch. According to court documents, Susan told police she went to Home Depot to buy duct tape and a back scrubber to whoop him for discipline. Susan told police she made Demetrius take his clothes off, and then she taped his mouth, bound his arms together behind him and ankles together. She struck him about 40 times all over his body. She made his sister Noelle watch the entire time she was abusing Demetrius. If Noelle had not watched, Susan told her she would be next. June 3rd, 2022. On the morning of June 3rd, 2022, Susan called 911 to report Demetrius was not breathing. When officers and firefighters responded to the 1900 block of Ulster Street, they found Susan performing CPR on Demetrius. However, he was pronounced dead at the scene by Denver Health paramedics. A responding officer reported there was blood on the bed, and firefighters noted the victim was in rigor mortis. In addition, they noticed Demetrius had welts and bruises on his body and that there was vomit on the ground near him. According to the autopsy performed by the city and county of Denver, Demetrius died of multiple blunt force injuries with abrasions and contusions covering 30 to 40% of his body. The autopsy also revealed multiple scars indicating a history of abuse. Susan has been arrested and faces charges of first-degree murder and child abuse in connection to his death. It was noted there was a teacher, Miss Reed Gibson, that tried to save Demetrius. Miss Gibson stated, schools are meant to be safe havens for children, and she aims to provide that safe space at Ashley Elementary School, particularly in her classroom, which is 209. She said Demetrius was the sweetest little boy and always had a huge smile on his face. Every day he would come running in through the little fence and say, "Hi, Miss Gibson." Miss Gibson stated Noelle and Demetrius are great kids and felt lucky to have been their teacher. Miss Gibson stated Demetrius' smile and spirit still remains in her classroom to this day. Certain professions require their staff and employees to report child abuse or neglect to the Department of Human Services. Miss Gibson stated she could not count how many mandatory reports she made. When asked if it was more than a dozen or less than that, she responded, more than a dozen. In October 2020, Miss Gibson first became concerned about the children's well being. Noelle had on a cute little skirt and tights on, but ripped her tights in the bathroom while she was pulling them up. When she went home, Susan saw that Noel's tights were ripped. Noelle told Miss Gibson she got grounded because her Aunt Susan said that she took scissors into the bathroom and cut her tights. Then Noelle began to open up even more when she realized Miss Gibson actually really cared. She said, I do not want to go home because I like it at school. I do not like living with my Aunt Susan. Miss Gibson made another report to Denver Human Services, and it was determined her complaint did not fit the criteria to launch an investigation. Another red flag came nearly a year later. September 2021. Susan had emailed the school asking if we could put Demetrius on remote learning, and we told her that this was not an option. Miss Gibson made another report to Denver Human Services because Susan wanted to keep Demetrius home for 2 weeks to punish him. The school attendant secretary called the Denver Public Schools Department of Safety to conduct a welfare check at their home. Susan never answered the door, and Denver Human Services was not contacted. Additional records received from Denver Human Services indicated that another concerned person contacted them on November 2019. However, this concern was also screened out according to Denver Human Services. Under current law, they are not required to follow up with a family once a caregiver is granted parental responsibility. The last time Denver Human Services made contact with Noelle and Demetrius was 2017. And I just want to reiterate, Susan has been arrested and faced charges of first-degree murder and child abuse in connection to Demetrius' death. My commentary. As I previously mentioned, Demetrius was born with marijuana in his system. He probably had withdrawals from this drug. Infants exposed to THC through breast milk can have sedative effects and delayed growth. Since an infant's first few months are an important phase for brain growth, the biological properties of THC can affect the proper development of the brain. In addition, there were complaints about the mother abusing him and his sister, which led to the aunt taking custody of them. After she takes um, After she takes custody of the kids, instead of loving them, she decides to continue with the abuse. I am pretty sure these kids were already suffering from issues of not living with their biological parents. The aunt takes the kids in what to only abuse them is not making sense. Why did you take the kids? Was it about a paycheck? Why didn't CPS do more to prevent this from happening? It seems the school contacted CPS numerous times about the abuse. I would really like to know the following. How did the aunt pass the background checks? CPS needs to visit the schools and talk to the kids without their caretaker being present. I think the kids will be more honest and open up. So many kids are falling through the cracks, and it needs to stop. My heart goes out to Demetrius' sister, Noelle, because I am sure she is missing her brother. I hope and pray that she is in a loving environment. Susan did not have the right to kill Demetrius. Exodus 20:13 states, Thou shalt not kill. Exodus 23:7 states, Having nothing to do with a false charge, and, and do not put an innocent or honest person to death, for I will not acquit the guilty. We need to do better and stop the abuse and killing of children. If you know of someone that is abusing a child, please report them to the police so the child can be removed. If you are a parent or a caregiver of a child and you are incapable of raising that child, Please reach out to your local church, hospital, or even your neighbor. Please do not abuse the child. It is evil and against God's word. I hope and pray Demetrius' family and friends get justice.